Got Heather. We got about 15 seconds on Flavia and another 20 to Kristen. She's leading.
Last year, I was able to take the win at Stetina's Pater, and yeah, that obviously helps in terms of like wanting to come back to an event. When an event goes well, it's feels great, it's exciting, it's a win. Had I won or not, this event would have been one of the first ones on my calendar for this year, and it was such a good weekend. We've made it to Carson City, Nevada for Pete Stetina's pay dirt race this weekend. Last year, this was one of my most favorite races of the whole year. Friday, we were able to get out on the first section of the course. I rode that whole section just to remind myself of the long hill climb and then the long descent. Beautiful, beautiful part of the Carson City area. Pre-rode that before hopping in the car and drove over to segment 2, where I actually jogged that segment. It's a single track mountain bike loop, about 9 miles. So I was able to get a little run in and also remind myself of that segment. I also climbed a few miles up the third segment just to test my tires for that third kind of climb segment. Before we went to the expo to register, say hi to Pete, ran into a bunch of friends we know who were here for the race and other sponsors, and just, get the bike checked out. Huge thanks to Big Tall Wayne with Canyon and also the Shimano crew for both being there and making sure my bike was ready to go. So just a fun day before the race, pretty low-key, pretty relaxed, which is always nice, and then rolled right into race day on Saturday. I think Pete's vision of this event is just to make it more of a fun gravel. It is a race, but it's more of just an experience. It's coming out all abilities, whether it's your first time doing a gravel event or you're a longtime veteran.
How stoked are you to see the quality of our women's field? I mean, obviously a huge amount of thought went into building this event around that. It's working.
Yeah, a big part of this is putting these illustrious pro women right as the main act, the main show. And we've got Ride Shimano putting up 10 grand cash on the race today. So the fastest women in the U.S. off-road space are here right now. And then, the other big thing is, juniors, they race free. When you and I, Dave, were actually growing up in Colorado together, and I was a junior, juniors raced free in those early races. And there's no reason anyone should charge a junior to race a bike. I mean, this is the next generation. So we actually have a really strong juniors field out here today, too, and they'll be fighting for their own podium.
Yeah, the start was fun. I didn't feel as, panicked or anxious as I can at some of this, the mass starts where it's both women and men, and it just goes from the gun and there's wheels overlapping and you can't see anything, dust flying up. I mean, this was a nice, calm rollout. Got to chat with some different people as we rolled over to where the first segment started. So it's like you can get this nice little warm up in, and it's not just this craziness. So I wasn't too nervous before they sounded the gun. As we got closer to where the first segment started, I was like, okay, it's almost go time. And I was trying to work through like, okay, should I wait a little bit and let some of the women go? And my only thought with that was that is how my whole triathlon career went. I like to come from behind and have like little carrots up the road to chase. So I was like, oh, that could be a good tactic. Because again, with the time segments, it doesn't matter where you start. Once you go over the mat, that's when the timing starts. In the end, kind of got to the front as we were nearing the first section and just went for it, kind of up front of the group of us that got there. So after that that was literally the first 2 or 3 miles of this segment. It's just a long climb. It was probably a 45-minute climb. And then once you crested it, you basically descended exactly what you just came up on, this long, wide open, just gravel road facing the mountains. It's beautiful. So that first segment, yeah, just push the climb and push the descent.
Jackson, we just finished segment number 1. I saw you and Flavia over the top together. It sounds like a little bit of a separation?
I think there was a little bit. I started before her, so I didn't know. And she caught me on the hill, so that would have meant she had more time. So I was like, you have to stay with her.
Yeah.
She's so light and such a strong climber. I was like, the only move is to attack the down. So on some of the S curve, right before the down, I went for it and then just started time trialing.
Do you know what the gap was at the finish of the segment?
I started the clock and I saw 47 before I saw kind of the group behind me, so maybe around there. But
all right, so you got a handful of seconds going into the next 2. All righty.
Let it rip on the down. That was my only play. I'm just gonna spin to the hot dog one.
Okay. See, there's it just straight?
I think you go down, then a left, and then a right to Genoa.
Yeah, so after segment 1, a group of us rolled to kind of the main aid station on course, which is just super fun. They're grilling hot dogs, there's tons of food options, everyone's hanging out there. Big Tall Wayne is there from Canyon working on bikes. I mean, yeah, just a fun atmosphere. And that is in between the first segment and the second one. But I had made the decision to do what I did last year, which was limit my time there and head for the second section, which is basically a 9-mile mountain bike single track trail. And that is mainly just because I'm okay in single track, but I also get flustered if there are people around me or if I feel like I'm holding someone up or I'm just like not being very smooth in cornering. So I just wanted to go to that second segment and ride it alone and do what I could the best I could. So I kind of hit the aid station quick and headed out to get over to that second segment before kind of the bigger groups of people were getting over that way. The second segment went okay. I think I felt a little less smooth than I did last year. And I don't know why that was, but I have this tendency to like sprint into single track corners and then slam the brakes on, slide out, not the smoothest mountain biker here, so. But I did lap it just to get an idea of how long the segment took me, and I think it was really close to what I did last year, so it was fine. I know there were some women here, specifically mountain bikers, who absolutely crushed it this year, so yeah.
Here we are. Heather just finished the section. Levi and Locke are heading out now. The lead men are just taking off. They're taking a run. It looks like Levi's leading. The strategy is really starting to play out. Levi is literally waiting to get a gap with Harrison.
Waiting for someone to go.
We saw you take your little quick pit stop and get a free run at trail. Did you have any holdups out there, or mostly clear?
It was clear. I had 2 people that had to get by, so I had to pull over just super quick.
Well,
but
that's courtesy. This is gravel racing.
Of course.
Awesome.
So I don't know. I felt a little less smooth.
So now what's well, this is not the tire for this section. So running slicks on a mountain bike trail. Okay.
Okay.
Are you gonna refuel here for a minute, or are you just gonna keep going?
I'm gonna take a rocket fuel shot.
Rocket fuel shot. All right.
Probably not stand too long for the legs.
No, yeah, because you start climbing immediately. John, we need a rocket fuel shot for Miss Heather Jackson. There we go.
Yes, so after the second segment, there's another aid station before you head into the third segment. And this was pre-advertised the day before on the Pater Instagram. And it was that Orange Seal, one of Pete's big sponsors, John at Orange Seal was going to be set up there with his espresso machine. And he made a Pay Dirt special concoction that you could take before that third segment. And I think it was a shot of espresso, some Coca-Cola, some seltzer water, and some maple syrup. So I had commented the day before, I'm hitting one of those before the final segment. So finished segment 2, hit one of those rocket fuel shots, and kind of regrouped a little bit, got some water, and then went for the third section pretty quick again, because the third section is this long sustained climb up this mountainside. It's kind of switchbacks, loose in areas, you're in the woods, and I just didn't want to be behind like big groups of people trying to pass on a single track climb. So I also didn't know early on kind of where I was sitting at all with the first 2 sections. And then again, Pete came riding up midway through the climb, and he specifically said that he was giving updates to all the women, so it wasn't like an unfair advantage. He just said, I just want to let you know, we don't have exact timing. You crushed the first segment, but Leah and Kristen absolutely annihilated the second segment, the mountain bike segment. So you need to stay on it because it's super close. So that was the info I got about halfway up this climb. And I was like, okay, thanks, Pete. And I'm just like, shit, I need to stay on this. And I like climbing, but this is like a single track, cut-backy, loose, sandy. There is this steep kind of cliff drop off to your left side. So I tried to stay on it, and about halfway up, there was this 180 cutback, and I think I went into the corner a little bit too hot and literally kind of crossed my front wheel too much, cutting back, and just dropped off the left side of this cliffside. And I'm just sliding down this I don't know how else to say it, cliff. And Pete had been around me just minutes before filming. And so I was like, holy shit, like I'm going off a cliff in front of Pete. And so I'm like, grab my bike so it's not sliding down the mountain. Trying to scramble back up as he comes around the corner, like, oh my God, what just happened? So I'm able to get back on the trail, but in my mind, I just had lost like 10 minutes. I know it was only probably, 10, 20 seconds, but it felt like forever. I still had probably 3 miles to go of the segment. And it was just riding panicked that I had just blown it in that moment. Yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea the timings or where I was or placement-wise or anything. And then we all rolled down. You have to drop back down to where the festival is, probably 6 or 7 miles down the hill that you had just climbed up. And we rolled down, and then when the group of us rolled across the finish line, Dave Towell, the announcer, actually started announcing how people had finished. So he announced it then that I had defended my title and had taken the win. So I was like, whoa, okay, that's super cool. But I was also like, how does he know that already? There's still women out there racing. So I was still a little bit like, we'll wait a touch more to see if that's confirmed or not. But that was the first, I guess, time I heard maybe how things had gone. Yeah, I mean, anytime you can take the win is obviously just a huge, yeah, that's great. That's the goal ultimately, results-wise. But I mean, the bigger goal is just to have a fun weekend in a kind of a lower key race vibe to support Pete and his event. And yeah, I think we did all of that. It was fun. It was a successful race day for me, which is icing on the top. But yeah, and also just overall happy with how the form on the bike feels right now. And then again at the park where the race ends. I mean, that race atmosphere, that park area, hanging out after the race ends and before the award ceremony, that's literally some of the most fun hours at any race really that I've been to. It kind of reminds me of Wildflower Triathlon way back in the day. It's just everyone hanging out on this lawn, food trucks, beer garden. There was a mechanical boulder ride. There was the IRC tire toss. So just fun games and everyone just hanging out, enjoying the afternoon after the race happened.
And that leaves the top step of the podium. It's been reserved for our outright women's champion, Meet the New Boss. It's the same as the old boss. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Heather Jackson. Heather, it turns out, is a mechanical bull expert as well. As Heather, up until Pete Stetina shattered the time for a long time in our bull ride hot seat, thank you to Wahoo, with a 10.6 seconds. So if the 70.3 triathlon and gravel world don't work out, PBR is certainly an option. Can you believe that this woman can ride a bull as well? As that is Heather Jackson on the top step of the podium. These are the queens of American gravel with Heather Jackson, Kristen Ligon, Leah Vanderlinden, Flavia Olivero Parks, and Lauren Cantwell. Let the good times roll.
Yeah, I mean, Pete's race weekend, Stetina's pay dirt, was one of my favorite events last year, and this year was no different.